massive bullish bump and bust pattern to absolute pumpy town. Baby bears worldwide quiver in their tiny shorts as they continue to get liquidated in and on. But the big question is, how much busting can Bitcoin do before it completely busts all over you? Bitcoin right now is on the verge of, dare I say, the biggest move of the last 24 hours, or even crazier, the biggest move of the last 48 hours, as it has completely thrusted and busted above 27,000 US dollars. How much momentum can Bitcoin maintain here? Why is it pumping? And did we actually just get even more fuel added to the pumpy fire than ever before? And I want to take a look and start, before we look at the charts of Bitcoin, is that economists today said they found over 180, probably 800, over 180 banks that may be prone to similar risks, such as SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, per the Wall Street Journal. This is potentially huge, and it doesn't really come as a surprise to anybody that has been paying attention to what is going on here in terms of banks being misallocated and unprepared for the current inflationary environment. And this, so far, has proven just over the last week to be a very pumpy narrative for Bitcoin. And we're seeing prices go up a lot. In addition here, we see U.S. regional banking sector collapsing, and we saw something similar back in 2008, and it led to the crash. This actually led the crash as markets eventually followed as well. And remember, all of this has, not exactly, all of this has happened similarly before in the past multiple times. The only time that's completely different this time is that this time Bitcoin exists. The last time, if we see a complete collapse in the regional banking sector that bleeds into markets in general, if we see something like that, this will be the very first time in history that Bitcoin has existed. And I'm very interested to see how that affects Bitcoin, because so far it has been affecting Bitcoin. And again, there are not that many things that get me excited in terms of Bitcoin somehow shattering the cycles or something like that. I personally believe that the best case scenario for Bitcoin is basically following these cycles, except for this. The only thing, in my opinion, that would make Bitcoin more likely to hit crazy valuations that almost don't even make sense at first, the only way I believe that that's possible is if Bitcoin, again, it's very simple. If it literally just starts to do what it was created for. It's not something very complex, but it is pretty mind-blowing to see if Bitcoin actually does what it was created to do. Then that's just the biggest confirmation, the biggest validation, the biggest pumpulation you could ever imagine. And again, so pretty much if you look at the cycles of what people have charted for every 4-year cycle, that's pretty much the most bullish scenario usually. But as I just said, I think the only thing that could get more bullish than that is if Bitcoin starts to, or not even starts, if it continues to do what it has been doing just the last week for the first time in history. And Plan B, the creator of the failed stock to flow model, also pointing out this, it's worse than March of 2020. Similar to the global financial collapse here, protect yourself. Again, I'm very excited to see how Bitcoin performs in this current environment. But as well, Credit Suisse, after the massive bailout they received, right, already completely getting dumped on still. Guys, the Band-Aid that was put on the financial markets over the last couple of days doesn't seem to be doing anything. And this is especially interesting as in less than a week, we're getting the FOMC meeting. The U.S. is having an FOMC meeting, and that will be interesting to see if they go with 25 basis points or they pivot completely. Because remember, a week and a half ago, a pivot was completely off the table for at least the next few months. And now we're looking at a scenario where we could actually see the first pivot. And that's another reason Bitcoin is pumping very bigly right now. And as well, if we take a look here, Nick Gurley on Twitter, 2023 is already the worst year of bank runs in U.S. history, measured by deposits held by failing banks. Just SVB and Signature had about over $250 million in deposits combined, already more than the deposit exposure of failed banks in 2008. Now, that doesn't take into account inflation, but still, it's crazy. One thing I've been seeing so much is so many people are adamant that this could never be as bad as 2008. And I personally I'm very open-minded. It's very possible maybe that's true, but it's also possible the exact opposite is true, and it could be way, way, way worse, right? Absolutely worse. In fact, Again, I need to remind people, nothing was solved in 2008. They just kicked the can down the road. It's not like in 2008 they came together and thought, hey, let's just fix everything and banks will start being responsible and, we won't need to bail them out anymore and everything will be peachy and we won't make the same mistake again. Absolutely not. Are you crazy? In fact, they probably made even more mistakes. They probably have made more mistakes over the past 2 years than even they did back then. But if we take a look at Bitcoin's chart, again, as we talked about, and many people highlighted this formation on Bitcoin's chart, whether you want to call it inverse head and shoulder or just clear support and building coiling action, Bitcoin has concretely now broken above this resistance that we were unable to break above for the last 9 months. This is the highest Bitcoin has been in 9 months, and we're approaching that $28,000 level, which is just very big resistance. But you can also see we're kind of in a low volume area right here, and that volume really does come in around even around 29,000. So Bitcoin has some room here still. But again, I mean, something we've been talking about for months. I mean, besides the bump and run, which he's been talking about this week, again, I still think it's very likely we'll see the mid 30,000s if this move completes very, very soon. So that's big. But again, I mean, this is the most obvious pattern, and we've been talking about this for literal months. I believe 7 or 8 months now. This falling wedge, macro falling wedge, gigantic, ginormous. And you see, this is like a textbook breakout after literally a textbook retest or back test. Okay, we had the initial breakout here. We had the back test, which literally stopped exactly on this line, and now we're pumping. So Bitcoin has a lot of room. I mean, the breakout target of this is much higher than we currently are. Tens of thousands of dollars higher than we currently are right now. So again, bullish. Doesn't mean we're going there exactly by next week. As you can see, I mean, this back test took, 2 months? So again, patience is required on these very long-term patterns here. But obviously very, very, very bullish. And all of this as well with the stock market just not really doing that good. Today, it actually had a down day today, right? Got rejected off its 200 week or 200-day moving average. But if you're wondering about altcoins as well, I personally believe this will be very similar to every other time we've had these macro busts. It reminds me very much of late 2019, early 2020. Bitcoin takes a lot of dominance, Bitcoin pumps a lot, and eventually the alts do benefit. And currently I'm up about $18,000 in profit trading this move. As you can see on the screen right here, if you're interested, sign up bonuses, everything below. Absolutely very exciting. Also 0 fees when you sign up with Bybit or BitGet for spot trading, which is absolutely ginormous. Without further ado, it's free.